shear, how wind speed changes with speed or direction as you go up in height in the atmosphere. Because if you can get some decent wind shear, that's sometimes when you can see supercells or tornadoes to develop within those thunderstorms that rotate. So let's go forward in time here. Notice it looks like there's a lot of energy locked up in the Gulf of Mexico. That actually could be what is right now potential tropical cyclone 19, potentially Sarah at some point. But I want you to notice that as we're going forward in time, here we are Tuesday afternoon, that system approaching. You see this little thin corridor of some storm fuel moving into Mississippi. So maybe around that point you could see some thunderstorms developing, but we're just not seeing right now the potential for any severe weather in our neck of the woods. What we are seeing though, you see those winds dipping down, that is the jet stream coming in. And that jet stream, as it dips down, has the potential to bring us that colder air. That's why we've been giving you that first alert that next week we could finally see some colder air in the forecast. So a lot going on next week with that severe potential looking really low for now, but we all have to watch where Sarah ends up going in the Gulf. So going to keep a close eye on that, but taking you across the nation now to Louisiana, where tropical rain this morning created a dangerous commute across southern Louisiana. The National Weather Service in Lake Charles issuing a flash flood warning from central Lafayette Parish to northwestern St. Martin Parish as flooding was ongoing. 2 to 3 inches had already fallen, with 2 more inches being possible. Some roads were impassable due to the flooding. And in Oregon, residents are cleaning up after a tornado moved through the northern part of the coast. According to the National Weather Service, a tornado reported near Rockaway Beach on Monday. The storm left behind damaged fences, homes, and tons of debris. Tuesday morning, Tillamook County sheriffs patrolled the area where the tornado reportedly touched down. They said some school district buildings were hit hard, but classes should be able to resume Wednesday. Thankfully, no injuries were reported as residents recall the events of the day.
It was really powerful, and I heard it coming, and then the whole front of the house, like I was standing in the window, pushed in, like the window pushed in, the frame, everything. I opened the window to let some pressure off so it wouldn't explode. But then I just heard bang, 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 and then it was over. In just 10 seconds or so, it was gone.
Well, the National Weather Service has not yet determined the strength of the tornado. Wes?
Yeah, we're going to take you across the world to Indonesia. Several Australian airlines canceling flights from the island after the island of Bali, actually, after the eruption of a volcano. Mount Leutobi Laki. How about that name, right? That volcano has been active since its first eruptions last Monday, covering towns and villages in volcanic ash and forcing thousands of residents to flee. On Friday, it spewed a 6.2-mile column of ash into the sky, the largest so far, according to officials. Indonesia has over 120 active volcanoes, more than anywhere else in the world, and it sits, of course, on the Ring of Fire around the Pacific, which is a series of fault lines around the Pacific Ocean. We see a lot of volcanoes around that Ring of Fire, including the Cascades in the northwest U.S. But on the way, Atlantic hurricane season continues for 2 more weeks, and we take a look back at notable hurricanes and tropical systems for the season and notable seasons. And we'll be right back with more First Alert weather in 30 seconds. All right, here's some updated forecast data for you. Next 24 hours, that rain now spreading in across the area, and it's going to stay this way for the rest of the evening. Now, once we get closer to midnight, notice the back edge of this starts to push into the area. That's with the cold front. It's going to stay windy tonight. Notice the temperatures in the 50s, so we really don't have any big-time instability across the area. That's why we're not too concerned about severe weather, even though we do have a front and some wind energy in the atmosphere. This is going to move on through. There's midnight tonight. tonight. We'll take this into the early morning hours. You may hear some rumbles late tonight, but again, the risk for organized severe weather is very low. It's mostly some much needed rain that we have moving across the area. So we take it into around, let's stop it right here as good day starts tomorrow morning. 4 o'clock in the morning, you can see some leftover rain, mostly for central and eastern areas, but by that point we will start to see the rain tapering off from west to east across west Alabama. And for the rest of the day, once this rain moves out early tomorrow morning, we are in very good shape for the rest of the day tomorrow. But we'll talk more about the rest of the week. I'll have the 7-day forecast and what's on the way for the weekend coming up. Lauren?
Thanks, Wes. Well, we've seen a lot of chatter on social media this year, really just people asking in general, even folks in the newsroom like, hey, can you clarify exactly what is a potential tropical cyclone and why in the world are we using that? Because my goodness, it's a tongue twister, especially now we're on 19, right, for potential tropical cyclones. Well, it's just a name that is designated by the National Hurricane Center. So technically, this disturbance that's in the Caribbean yet, it's not a full-fledged system, but we have enough evidence that in the coming days, we're talking potential impacts within the next 36 to 48 hours that something could develop, and it could potentially become a tropical storm, maybe eventually a hurricane. So the National Hurricane Center uses this designation to go ahead and basically give people forewarning, just like we give you the first alert, giving you the idea that, hey, within the next 36 to 48 hours, a potential system could develop and it could impact land. So it's just a general name for something that hasn't formed yet, and tropical cyclone is just the umbrella word for all of those different type of tropical names we have. Well, speaking of the tropics, meteorologist Matt Daniel joins us now with a deep dive into why this hurricane season has been so notable and how it ranks amongst other years.
So it's been a very active hurricane season as we originally thought. Of course, we were talking about a lot of named storms. May not have seen as many storms, although we've seen some pretty intense storms. Of course, we can't forget Debbie or Helene, of course, that impacted parts of the southeast. And of course, we're now waiting on Sarah that will likely form in the Caribbean over the next several days. So where does this hurricane stand as of now? This is as of November 10th. And so far we've had 17 observed storms. So we've had 17 storms. On average, we'll get about 14. When it comes to hurricanes, we've already had 11 of them, and on average, we'll get about 7 of those. When it comes to hurricane days or storms that were 74 miles per hour or greater, we have over 74 days of seeing something out there that was a hurricane. And we've had 5 major hurricanes. On average, it's 3. And when it comes to the energy of these cyclones, we call it the accumulated cyclone energy, also called as ACE, is at 160, and on average it's 118. So what does that mean? Well, we base ACE, or the accumulated cyclone energy, based on how active the season is. And so 2024 is now considered extremely active in the satellite era. So when we talk about those extremely active seasons, we're referencing 1995, 96, 98, 99, and 2003. And then of course 2004, 2005, 2010, 2017, and not too long ago back in 2020. So when it comes to ACE, to become extremely active, there's a lot of math. We'll get to it shortly. It's got to reach 159.6. We're already at 159.8. And when Sarah forms, this number will likely go up because some of the models are showing it becoming a hurricane, perhaps as we go into the weekend and then going into early next week. So like I said, ACE is accumulated cyclone energy. It's based on the combined duration and the strength of tropical cyclones. Doesn't take into effect of how much rain falls in a certain spot, but it's the energy that it accumulates over time. So it's just that wind energy index. So just to give you an idea, like I said, it has to be 159.6 to be extremely active. An above average season is usually above 126, and below average is usually below 73. So there's a lot of math involved. I'm not going to bore you with all those significant details. If you're interested in it, maybe become a meteorologist, go to school and get a little bit of that math in. But just to give you an idea, typically, like as we say, November is usually the last month of the hurricane season. But looking ahead, we still have that system in the Caribbean that could cause some issues going into next week, maybe for Cuba, Yucatan, and perhaps the Florida Peninsula.
Thanks, Matt. Well, today also marks the 25th anniversary of Hurricane Lenny, also nicknamed Wrong Way Lenny because it was the first hurricane on record to approach Puerto Rico from the west. Tropical systems are typically guided from the west to east, from the Atlantic to the Caribbean. But in Lenny's case, a large dip in the jet stream was over the western Atlantic and put the hurricane on an eastward track towards the northern Leeward Islands, making it go west to east from the Caribbean to the Atlantic. Lenny went on to become a powerful Category 4 hurricane, becoming one of the strongest November hurricanes on record. Hurricane Paloma in 2008 follows close behind it. Well, still ahead on First Alert Weather Extra, we continue to track rain moving in tonight and a first alert for cooler temperatures on the horizon. And taking a look at those gorgeous weather photos, we'll be right back.
And welcome back into First Alert Weather Extra. That rain spreading in across the area, and it's going to stay like this for several more hours. And you may hear a few rumbles of thunder. I've seen a little bit of lightning out there. Actually, some of these, there's some storms back into Mississippi. See right there, a couple little areas. See that lightning being detected right there. So over into Mississippi, that's about to work its way in. So you may hear some rumbles across west Alabama. Most of what we're seeing, though, further east, certainly just lighter rain, but enough to wet the roadways. You can see Springville. We go into St. Clair County here. Looks like right along the interstate covered up. There's Asheville and our friends around St. Clair Springs, Highland Lake, south to Odenville, 411 and Highway 231, Coal City, Ragland, covered up in the rain. It looks like a couple of breaks breaks there north of Birmingham, but there's more about to move in. But from Jasper to Birmingham, a little window where it's not raining. Actually, rain's tapered off for the moment at Tuscaloosa. You can see, looks like over towards Cottondale and Vance, some leftover showers, but still some rain will impact the drive between Tuscaloosa and Birmingham. But there's plenty more to come overnight tonight. So 7-day forecast starting out tomorrow. I'll just walk you through the forecast data for the remainder of tonight and into the day tomorrow. And you can see the back edge of this line starts to move in during the early morning. There's 6 a.m. You can see by that point rain's quickly tapering off to the east, and the clouds will gradually give way to some sun in the mix tomorrow, but certainly a cool day. We'll see most areas only topping out in the 60s for tomorrow, and then tomorrow night it's down into the 40s. So jacket weather into early Friday morning, 64 degrees. As far as high school football, some of the playoff games happening. Looks like during the evening hours to close out the week, we're going to be talking about some 50-degree temperatures, cooling off into the 40s there late at night. I mentioned Saturday morning down to 43 degrees, but notice some areas, outlying areas, we could see some upper 30s out there. And then we have another front, a first alert for Tuesday, another front that's on the way that will bring another chance for some wet weather and some changes for later on next week. And to go beyond the 7-day forecast and to talk more about that system, meteorologist Lauren Linehan joins us now. And Lauren, looks like late next week we could be talking about possible freezing temperatures.
Well, you know, Wes, it's about time.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
maybe
about time,
let's
right?
not jump all the way to freezing, but if we could
Yeah.
just kind of get to where we're supposed to be, since Thanksgiving is just around the corner, we got to get things back to normal around here. We just don't want to jump all the way to winter. But let's look, like Wes mentioned, as we begin to look a little bit beyond the 7-day. Well, here we are Monday, at least, showing that potential for another system to come in. This was what I was talking about. We have that possibility of Sarah down in the Gulf, still uncertainty on where it's going to eventually track, but this front, depending on how quickly it comes in, could actually help to steer wherever Sarah ends up going. So we've got rain returning on Tuesday, and then here comes that colder air associated with that front that would eventually move down. So here we are looking at next Thursday night, getting pretty chilly, and then we go into the following morning and see temperatures going into late next week, possibly falling into the upper 20s, low 30s. So this is looking at Saturday, the weekend before Thanksgiving. This is November 23rd. So we just want to give you that first alert that we're watching for the possibility of not a frost threat, a good old-fashioned freeze threat. So certainly something to watch. And you can see here in the temperature outlook 8 to 14 days from now, this is looking at November 21st to 27th, taking us right up to Thanksgiving. There is that possibility of below normal temperatures in Alabama. And what about the rain? Even though we have that chance of rain next week, potentially once we get past that and head towards Thanksgiving, possibly switching back to a drier pattern. So we're certainly going to be watching that in the days ahead. But hey, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with your final check on weather and a look at some of those dazzling viewer photos. Stay tuned. And let's take a look at some of those viewer photos. Wow, that one reminiscent of a painting. Thanks to Donna
beautiful.
Johnson for sending that in. The sunrise on Logan
ocean in the
Martin
sky,
Lake,
right?
Beautiful. Oh, and then there's the actual ocean, Wes.
Yeah, there we go. We got the real thing from Jimmy Saris in Pensacola Beach. Jimmy shares some lovely views there from the coast, and also Adam Stuckey sharing this view, and this is from trying to find, it's Coleman. Okay, sunrise in Coleman.
Oh, wow. Look at that. Now that's gorgeous from Nikki Law. Oh, it's in Florida. No wonder. I was like, that happened here recently. Clouds in Lake Wales, Florida. Oh, and then how about that gorgeous sunrise from East Iboga? Actually, that's the sunset. But man, what beautiful views. Probably didn't get quite those views tonight.
Yeah, Rodney Frazier, some great views there from East Iboga. You can share those on the First Alert Weather app. And Lauren, tracking some rain tonight.
Yep. See you back here at 9.
See you tonight.